Welcome to 2020, where the world has been flipped on its head. Started with possibility of World War III. Then moved on to taking some of our great talents. And of course the highlight of the year has been the coronavirus! Coronavirus! Which has basically caused a complete economic shutdown and forced everyone indoors. Along with being forced indoors, people were forced to their computers, like distance learning and working from home. Meaning people went further and further into the cyber world. And with more people to victimize, cyber criminals have been waiting with open arms. There has been a couple of major breaches during this pandemic. For instance, Twitter was hacked, allowing attackers to take $121,000 in Bitcoin. The Marriott was hacked, which impacted the data of over 5.2 million hotel guests. And even Zoom was hacked, leading to 500,000 Zoom passwords to be sold on the dark web. You are starting your business in this new way of life, and might be thinking, well, I'm a small business and these criminals won't waste their time with me and my small company, which is a thought process that is backed by Interpol's report. To maximize damage and financial gain, cyber criminals are shifting their targets from individuals and small businesses to major corporations, governments and critical infrastructure, which play a crucial role in responding to the outbreak. Where that statement might be true. A report from the IBM and Ponemon Institute states that small businesses spend on average $7.68 million per cybersecurity incident. It was also reported in Verizon's 2020 Data Breach Investigation Report, that 1 in 3 breaches happen to small businesses. So the question now is? Out of the 2 small businesses around you, are you willing to take a $7.68 million chance that you are not the target of the cyber attack? If you are not willing to gamble $7.68 million, then I have a product that will help you diminish the chances of a cybersecurity attack. That product is Nikto. Nikto is a robust web server scanner. Attackers have been known to take advantage of outdated versions of software to gain access to networks, which allows them to conduct various attacks. One such attack was conducted by a cybercriminal group out of Russia. They found a computer network in Ukraine that failed to have an updated version of the Microsoft's Server Message Block Protocol, also known as the NotPetya attack. The outdated version on that one network gave the cybercriminals access to an entire network of shipping companies, which were based throughout the world, leading to what representatives from the White House called the most destructive and costly cyber attack in history. That is where Nikto comes into the picture. One of Nikto's major functions is to check for outdated versions. It is designated to check over 1,250 servers, and it checks over 270 servers for version-specific problems. Nikto allows for individuals to determine if there are vulnerabilities or any potential problems associated with web servers. Utilizing this tool can prevent your business from suffering the same fate as, well, those ships. Symbolically, of course.
Hello, and thank you for watching our presentation. We are Team Nikto, 5 cybersecurity students at the University of San Diego, who you will meet over the course of the next several minutes. I'm Kevin, and I'm going to set the stage for us a little bit before tossing it over to my colleague Omri, who's going to dive a bit deeper into our team's capabilities and what we think we can bring to the table for your organization. Throughout this presentation, we hope to convey the importance of a strong cybersecurity framework for your small to medium-sized business and walk away with some tangible ways to strengthen your organization's cybersecurity. Whether your organization relies on the internet or not to generate revenue, conducting business online in one way or another is critical for success in the 21st century. The risks associated with the potential loss of intellectual property, data, and personally identifiable information alone could jeopardize the success of a business and threaten customer relationships built out over years, essentially overnight. So what's our aim here? We hope to provide our client, you, with an understanding of your network's risks, threats, vulnerabilities, and hopefully provide a way to help mitigate those vulnerabilities and set you on a path towards strengthening your cybersecurity framework at depth with a tool called Nikto. Okay, very quickly, let's go over the risks, threats, and vulnerabilities that your system faces. So the risks are the likelihood that something bad will happen to an asset within your network purview. As conveyed earlier by our intro video, the risks associated with loss of data and other information is very high. For a small to medium-sized organization, we determine a high risk in this category. Threats. A threat is any action that could damage an asset. In this instance, we're mostly concerned with unauthorized access to your server and network. Vulnerability. A vulnerability is any weakness that allows a threat to be realized or impacts an asset on your network. We've determined a high probability of an improperly configured network, and as a result, your network could potentially be at risk. So I'm going to pass it over to Omri, who's going to discuss how we can address this concern with a tool called Nikto.
Thank you, Kevin. So we'll try to understand and identify what exactly is Nikto. Nikto is a web server scanner that allows comprehensive tests against web servers. Nikto allows to test the existence of over 6,700 potentially dangerous files and programs. It also allows to test for outdated versions of more than 1,250 servers components. It allows to check for versions of specific problems on over 270 servers. And lastly, it allows to check for servers configuration. Nikto vulnerability scans can be and should be automated. Making the scanning process automatic could help conducting the scan at regular intervals at fixed times. It is recommended to automate the scans from bi-weekly to quarterly, but not limited to this amount. The automation process saves and stores the reports for review and analysis so they can be referred to at a later time. Now, Michael is going to talk a little bit about the implementation of Nikto.
Thank you, Omri. We've implemented a generic example that could apply to a business in a potential use of Nikto. An ideal use case for Nikto is to have a combination of routinely scheduled scans of the network and ad hoc scans to ensure there are no known vulnerabilities present. After vulnerabilities have been addressed, the routine scans would ideally just be confirming that there has not been a change to the configuration of the servers. As Nikto's databases are updated, these continuous scans could also identify previously unknown vulnerabilities. The frequency of routine scanning would be dependent on the workload of IT personnel. As Omri said, a reasonable scanning frequency would be somewhere between bi-monthly and quarterly for the routine scheduled scans, and then the ad hoc scanning should occur whenever there is a change to the network. If a server is added or there is a configuration change or new software added to a server, there should be an additional scan. And scheduling scans can be approached in 3 steps. By creating a script to execute scans, the scanning can be automated. Nikto can be called from the command line, and host server IP addresses can be provided along with ports to scan. If no ports are listed, Nikto will assume port 80 is being searched for. Nikto produces a report that will be generated on the command line or can be stored in a file. There are multiple formats for the report generated by Nikto. The report can be generated as text, XML, HTML, NBE, or CSV. These different formats allow for different means of conducting analysis on the reports or even automating the checks. After having an acceptable script for conducting scanning, the script should be added to the cron table. Linux and other operating systems have a utility to schedule the execution of tasks. Here you can choose the frequency of calls to the script executing server scans. Finally, there should be someone reviewing the reports generated. Andrew will now speak more in depth about the reports from Nikto.
All right, great. So after having completed the vulnerability scan with the Nikto utility, we are provided with a report shown in the image here. The report provides some basic metadata from the scan, which includes the Nikto version that was utilized, the information about the target machine that includes the IP address, the host name, the port number, And finally, the start and end time of the scan to determine the amount of time it took to execute the scan against the target. For this particular example, the scan shows that there were seven items that were reported that could introduce a potential weakness. At this point, a cyber analyst would review and make recommendations of what should be patched or closed in order to avoid being a victim of a cyber security threat. In this instance, the report depicts that the anti-clickjacking header is not present, which allows for the website to be at risk of a clickjacking attack, which basically allows for a hacker to reroute a user's clicks to a different location. Clickjacking is when an attacker is using multiple transparent or opaque layers to trick a user into clicking on a button or link on a frame page when they are intended to click on the top level page. Next slide, please. So Nikto is highly recommended as a vulnerability assessment tool that should be run periodically in order to minimize the amount of risk associated in an organization. Without the use of such tools, organizations are more likely to open themselves up to weaknesses that hackers can exploit. A few of these will be reviewed by my colleague, Bennie.
Thank you, Andrew. In the end, the decision is yours. If you feel that you can beat the odds and no cyber attack will affect your company, so be it. However, there's always consequences for actions. And some of the most notable consequences for not utilizing a tool like Nikto came in 2017, when the WannaCry attack and the NotPetya attack rocked the cyber world. Not only did they affect devices around the world, they cost billions and billions of dollars of damages. The WannaCry attack was described as the first time ransomware spread across the world in a coordinated cyber attack. The NotPetya attack was described earlier in this presentation, caused major shipping companies to shut down. That meant exports, imports, and anything in transit were basically affected and halted, meaning that even the mom and pop stores in Kansas that depend on imports to get the job done were affected by this attack. Both attacks were a result of updates not being applied to the system. Other attacks, like the MasterCard and the Home Depot and the Subway attacks, cost millions of dollars and affected individuals' information. And they were all a result of unpatched networks. It is imperative that your company protects its network, not only because it might cost you substantial losses, but you might also affect others. Nikto's free software is the best option to provide your company a fighting chance against the world of cyber criminals. And from the Nikto team, I want to thank you for listening to this presentation and have a nice day.